You have a title, congratulations. You have authority, but you don't have leadership. When I talk about human spirit, it's just, why do you get up in the morning? Why do you get up and do anything? I feel sad thinking about people who maybe spend their whole lives not being fully who they are.
Welcome to Impact Leaders with Magda Petryniak. My today's guest is Dr. John Scherer, a renowned expert in leadership and change. Dr. Scherer has transformed lives and organizations in 55 countries through his groundbreaking leadership and executive development intensives. He's been recognized as one of America's top 100 thought voices in personal leadership development by Stephen Covey's Executive Excellence magazine. He came to Poland in 2008 for 6 months, and he stayed 16 years. Today, we will talk about leadership in change. Welcome, John.
It's great to be here with you, Magda.
Great to see you
Yeah, it's true.
again.
I came for 6 months and stayed for 16 years.
Oh my God, what a story, 16 years in Poland. What kept you so long here in our beautiful country?
8 years in Krakow and 8 years in Warsaw, well, I was invited to come by a woman in Krakow who had a leadership training company, and she heard my talk in California that I gave on work and the human spirit. And she called me 2 weeks later and said, hello, I'm so-and-so from Krakow, Poland, and I have a leadership company. We have this client, Oil and Petroleum. Would you come and give that same talk? And I thought, wow, a chance to go to a former communist country, which I'd never been to before, and talk to a bunch of oil executives about work and the human spirit. I thought, man, I'll do that for free.
Yeah.
So I came over, and she saw the impact on people. The idea that who you are as a person is not something that you should hide. You can't hide it. Let's face it, every day you go to work, we spend 80% of our alive time on the earth at work. And so what a shame if you live for whatever number of years and realize you look back that you were never who you were. And so here comes this American who's telling us that instead of being careful when we go out the front door, which I learned about, like when you go out the front door, you know, shields up, you need to be really careful.
Yeah.
In fact, I walked into a store when I first got to Krakow, and the sales lady said in English, "Yes, may I help you?" And I was shocked, and I turned to my friend Derek and I said, "How does she know to speak to me in English?" He said, "Yannick, we can spot an American walking down the street."
Beautiful.
And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You come into the room, it's like, okay, I'm here now, things can start." He said, "We were taught as kids, you never, ever act like that. You just be very careful when you walk in a room." So I've learned so much. I have so much respect for people in this part of the world. I just love, in fact, it feels really great to be back and to be hearing Polish again.
Beautiful. We'll tackle that element of bringing our human spirit to the workplace. But before that, I would like to ask you this opening question. You spent 50 years, more than 50 years in this space of helping people grow, transform, helping organizations transform. If you were to encapsulate your mission, why you do it, why is it so important to you, what would that be?
Great question. I remember I was in the U.S. Navy for 4 years in my 20s, and I remember the executive officer on our ship, I was a combat officer, came up to me one time and he said, "Mr. Scherer, what are we running here, a ship of war or a psychological clinic?" And I said, "Well, XO, it depends, And because even at that point in my life, I realized that not only was I learning about leadership, not from the book or in the library, but in real life. I was put on a ship and suddenly I have 12 people that I'm responsible for exercising some kind of leadership with these 12 people. I didn't know who they were. They didn't know who I was. So I had to learn about that. So from that point on, I think I realized that leadership is about unleashing the potential. And of course it has to show up, especially in a combat situation, you have to do stuff. You can't just be a wonderful person.
Yeah.
So for me, it started right back then. How do I help people get the most out of the people that are around them? So it's been ever since then.
You used a phrase before unleashing human spirit
Yeah.
in the workplace. Would you please unpack the word human spirit? Because in Polish, we
I
have
know.
the same word for spirit, spirituality, the soul.
Yeah.
And for some people, it may feel a little kind of voodoo,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I want us to be on the same
That,
page before we get
of course.
into like developing skills and leadership.
The very first talk that I gave for Oil and Petroleum back in 2007, my translator paused at one point and she said, Yannick, and she talked for 2 or 3 minutes. And then she said, okay. And afterward, I said, what was that all about? Because it was in Polish and I didn't understand at that point. And she said, I had to explain what you meant by human spirit because we don't have a word, duch. It means like, some ghost or something, doesn't mean. And she said, the only word we have is in the church, spiritus. And that's not what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And she said, I had to explain what Yannick is talking about and what he's not talking about. So when I talk about human spirit, it's just, why do you get up in the morning? Mm-hmm. Why do you get up and do anything? And who is the person in there? You're making decisions all day long. Well, who is the person? I'm much more interested in that than the decisions that you make. I'm interested in who's making that decision. Who is alive in there? Who is down in there? Who is the person under the position? You have a title, congratulations. You have authority, but you don't have leadership. Leadership is something that you as a human being are doing. So who are you? It's like being a carpenter. There are people that can help you use your tools better. I'm interested in what are you trying to build? Who is it in there, and what are you trying to accomplish with this thing you're making? It's like that. So what is it that's moving in you every day?
Why do you put so much significance on this element, especially in the context of business? Yeah. And when you told us a little anecdotal brief story of how you entered the shop in Poland, it highlights the differences in culture. We are taught to rather hide, not to show our personality, to be rather close
careful.
And very careful. Maybe it's a part of our history and the communist time in Poland. Maybe it's a part of the upbringing and kind of patterns we do have. But why is it so important to show the human spirit?
Well, I feel sad thinking about people who maybe spend their whole lives not being fully who they are because they were trained to be careful. Mm-hmm. So every day you get up and go to work for 8 hours and then you go home. And what my Polish friends taught me is that they were taught as kids, like when you walk out the front door, you're a different person. You're very careful. You're not fully who you are until you come back home again or with your circle of friends. And here comes this American saying, why don't you take that person that you are in your circle of friends and bring that person to work? Because that's what your organization needs. That's what your clients need, your customers, your colleagues. Leadership is about being that person, not some careful person that's being protective. So from my point of view, my commitment is to unleash the human spirit, starting with leadership, because people figure out what the rules of the game are by looking up. So you can do training and all that, but they're not going to break the rules about how they're supposed to be. So I'm into opening that space for people so they can be fully who they are. That's what's needed. That's what leadership is, helping people unleash that internal energy, that motivation, the fullness of who they are, creativity, innovation, all the things that organizations need to stay alive. Start with each person being alive every day when they go to work.
I hear you, and I love this
philosophy.
Resonate
with that?
It resonates with me. However, I know
Ale.
that
There's always an ale.
There is ale. There is other side of the coin. There are different cultures. Mm-hmm. There are cultures that resemble more the army culture, the hierarchy. Sure. The strong leadership, the leader who knows all the decisions, and the command and control rules. How do you unleash human spirit in different cultures? I'm not just asking about this very, top-down hierarchical culture, but is it possible to be who we truly are in every organization?
I remember when my friends in America said to me, John, why have you stayed for 16 years in Poland? And I said, when I came here, I was stepping into a moment in Poland's history where the Polish people were discovering how to turn freedom into effectiveness, is the way I said it. We've got freedom, now what? And I say, on Friday, there was the Communist Party, there was command and control. And then on Monday, we're supposed to be this free, open, okay, now what? And I've said, what a miracle this country is. Because literally, overnight, they had to figure out, how do we have organizations that work? Education, finance, technology, healthcare, everything had to be, you had to figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
And you did it. And you did it. The whole Solidarność movement, I know the challenges involved in that, but by God, you did it. And you did it without a war. And you're still doing it. You're still discovering how to, which is what leadership is. Leadership is discovering what's needed now. What is it time for now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Poles are known for our entrepreneurial spirit,
Yep.
if we are talking about that.
Absolutely.
Now, 30 years later, we are a free market economy, well-developed country according to the World Bank. So we are doing pretty well.
Thriving.
We are thriving. However, still times are not easy, nor for Poles, nor for the rest of the world. We are going through turbulent times, and the change is constant.
Sure.
You're an expert in change. The recent years gives us a lot of challenges and trials. From your perspective, what type of organizations thrive through such times? Can you
success.
give us
Absolutely.
a little of characteristics?
You bet.
How do we do this transformation? How do we evolve in such times?
Yeah.
How do we thrive in times of changes?
You know, something that many people don't know is that the grandfather of the change movement was a man named Kurt Lewin. He was from Mogilno, Poland.
All right.
He and his family went to Germany to teach at the university. Hitler came to power. They were Jewish. He took his family and moved to America. I'm so grateful, thank goodness. And Kurt is the one who, all the things we talk about now, group dynamics, decision-making, leadership, all this stuff, he brought with him to America. And so my mentor in this field was his first graduate student, a guy named Ron Lippitt. So what I learned about organizational change, I learned from Ron Lippitt, who learned it from Kurt Lewin. So I'm one handshake away from the guy that really started this whole thing about conscious change. Okay. So the principles are, among other things, that when like for instance, COVID threw all the cards up in the air. Nobody knew what to do. What are they going to look like as they fall back down again? And I got excited because what I learned in this field is that when things are, he said, unfrozen. Yeah. Like right now, things are frozen. Okay. Yeah. And then all of a sudden something happens to unfreeze the situation. As soon as they're unfrozen and the pieces are moving, then it's easier to move things around. Then they freeze again. And I said, what a great opportunity COVID is giving the whole planet. Kurt would be excited about this. Nobody knows what to do. He would say, great, okay. Now we can innovate. See?
Yeah.
As the pieces are falling back down, we can guide them into new shapes. So from my point of view, whenever I'm invited into an organization, which I've been doing, like you said, for 50 years, they want to know, how do we create change? Now, in Poland, for sure, this is true. The C-level people, we've got to change or we're going to die, okay? The millennials are all like, well, yeah. I mean, come on, what do you change? Yeah, let's go. What are you waiting for? So it's the middle of the organization where the people are guardians of the old way of doing things. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what they thought they're supposed to do every day, is to actually keep change from happening. So from when I'm training my colleagues here to do organizational change, the action is in the middle. The top people have to give top motivation. This is what we're doing and why. Now you guys figure out how. So what Kurt figured out is when you engage the organization, the whole system, in figuring out what we need to do and then how to do it, they will buy into the change. So this is my phrase for what I've been doing here is whole system performance improvement. It's like engaging the whole system in performance improvement. So that's what we do. And so how do you get people to, well, the way you do it is you ask them. You don't tell them what to do. You put them in a room and say, this is where we're trying to go in the future. What do you think? What are your ideas about how to get there? And they figure out how to do it.
Especially the middle
Exactly.
the middle layer
Exactly.
of the organization.
High engagement, performance improvement. Exactly.
What is the role of your groundbreaking programs, the intensives, in helping this
Great
group?
question. I think it's impossible for leadership, for people in leadership, to facilitate transformation outside of themselves in their organization if they haven't experienced an internal transformation of some kind. Because internally, like, I don't want to change, but I'm going to try to get you all to change. See, that's manipulation. It's what happens.
Yeah.
It's what happens 9 times out of 10. It's what the world has. My mission is to not let that happen. It is to engage the leadership. And in Poland, since I've been here these 16 years, hundreds of organizations in Poland have put their executive groups through this leadership development intensive as a part of how do we now then take that spirit of discovery and learning internally letting go of something and opening up to something new. And now we've earned the right to engage our organization now in that process. Yeah.
We keep hearing the phrase that people who will thrive in these turbulent times, in this new reality, how they call it, the times of high-speed technological revolution, but also different societal changes, geopolitical changes, will be people who have the ability to learn new things quickly, unlearn the old things that don't work anymore, and relearn, reskill.
Yeah.
What do you find the most critical these days for us, people in the leadership, in the business environment, to be focusing on learning, relearning, and reskilling?
Well, we talked about this a little bit before. AI is like COVID. AI is changing everything. So that's the new context for leadership. Even if it hasn't hit your organization yet, it's already hit your organization. You may not even realize it. So how in the world, what does it mean now to be human beings in teams, multicultural, global teams now? A lot of countries don't. When you have a team meeting, you're on Zoom or Teams or something, and you got people from 4 or 5 different countries, and we've got AI on top of that. My goodness. So what I'm excited about, Magda, is that people who know stuff, like there's what you know, what you don't know, and then there's what you don't know, you don't know. This is a classic thing for many years. And right now, AI is saying there's stuff you don't know that you don't even know. So rather than get scared, I'm excited, like, oh my goodness. And I think I told you the story about my daughter Emma when she was little. This is the way I remember it. Her older brother was tying his shoes, and Asa, and she said, Emma, do it, Emma, do it. And I remember thinking in that moment, she still doesn't know how to tie her shoes, but something really important has happened. She now realizes that there's a thing called tying shoes, which didn't even exist 10 seconds before that. So a major, major breakthrough. Now she knows that she doesn't know how to tie shoes. And I think that's where we are with AI. And not only AI, but all the things you mentioned, all the globalization of change and teams and everything. We really do, all the models that we've had for leadership and organizations need to be re-examined. And so courageous. So I think one of the key factors in leadership, you asked me, is courage. Courage and authenticity. Courage and being real with people. It takes courage to be real with people. It takes courage to innovate. It takes courage to let go of something that served us in the past. That's where you can't take on a new thing until you let go of the old thing.
Yeah. Let me come back to
Please.
what you said a minute ago about, this is how I understand it, that you cannot expect other people to change, to follow the change if you do not present. You're not an example. You have transformed yourself. You have experienced that. You embody that. Yeah. How do we start there? It's not easy.
Okay.
You said sometimes we don't know something about ourselves. We don't know that we should be doing that.
I have these, I tell people, there are these 3 sentences. This is like, My book is about it's called Five Questions. My book was called Five Questions That Change Everything. And I said, except the one thing that never needs to change. I'm telling this to people in leadership. You don't need to change yourself. You need to come home to yourself. And this changes everything. So it's not like a lot of leadership books are you should be like Mahatma Gandhi or Steve Jobs or the Buddha or Jesus or whoever it is that you should be like this person. No. You should be like yourself. You know, there's a T-shirt, might as well be myself. Everyone else is taken.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the first thing is, okay, well then how do I come home to myself? John, you say I need to come home. Your organization needs to come home to itself. Your team needs to come. We need to learn how to come home to ourselves. Well, okay, how do we do that? And that's where the 5 questions come in.
Yeah. Let me show the book for people who are interested. Unfortunately, it's
that version's out of print.
Out of print. You see, I've used it extensively. However, there's another book available. We'll talk about it later. But let's bring the 5 questions that change everything and help us come back home.
Thank you for asking. And these questions in the book are in the singular. It's about me in terms of me and my leadership. But you can also do them in the plural, like for my team organization. First question number 1, what's confronting me? And we use the metaphor of the tiger. What tigers are facing me? It's something that's a challenge for me, a person that's difficult, a decision, things that I'm having to, what is coming at me? And the metaphor of the tiger is the people that live in that part of the world where tigers are have learned the hard way that if you run away or turn your back on a tiger, it will attack you. But if you turn and face the tiger, he'll stop and think about it. Now, he might still eat you because this is not a magic story, but the tiger will stop and think about it. So the simple act of turning and facing the tiger creates not a guarantee, but a chance of a different outcome. So everybody has tigers. And don't think if you're not facing it, listen, it's already eating you. If you're not facing a tiger, it's already eating you. So question number 1 is, what are these tigers that are facing me? And the second thing is, if I were to turn and face this tiger, what would I be bringing to that encounter with the tiger? My hopes, my fears. What's my history with this tiger or this kind of situation? What's the conversation I'm having about the tiger? Okay, now that's something that if I ask you and you feel safe enough, you can tell me all of that. So that's question number 2. What am I bringing? Question 3 is different. What's running me? What's been running me? How am I like a hamster running in the wheel, where every day is pretty much the same? I'm going to innovate. I'm going to wear better running shoes. I'm going to be a vegan running in the wheel. I'm going to go to some workshops about how to run. You're still running in the wheel every day. So this question 3 is about what are my habits that I'm not even aware of? What do I do? How am I on automatic with all this stuff?
My autopilot.
Exactly. And I'm not going to be able to confront this tiger by what I normally do. If I could, it wouldn't be there. So the tiger is evidence that I'm going to need to innovate. I'm going to need to do something that I'm not used to doing. And that's going to take courage. So question 3 is what's been running me? And that's a very, very important thing. How am I trying to be seen by the people around me? And what am I trying to hide? And as soon as you develop that authenticity, autos, being fully who you are, then you can move to then question 4, which is, okay, what's calling me? From 2 directions. What charisms, what natural gifts do I have that call out to be expressed in my work every day? If you can't express those gifts in your work every day, it's manipulation and it's not going to last, and you shouldn't be allowed to do that. You need to be doing something that's right for you and right for the people around you. So what's calling out from inside? Secondly, what's calling me from outside? What's the difference that I wish when it's all over and I'm lying there about to check out of this life, what would I like to look back and think, what kind of difference would I hope my life has made? It's like everything that's happened to us when we're little has shaped us like a key. And what is the lock? What am I perfectly designed to address in this world? It's no accident if you're in finance or marketing or engineering or tech. That's not an accident. There's something natural about your gifts, and that is to make some kind of a difference in the world. And that takes us then to question 5. Okay, got all that. What will unleash me? How do I put that into action? So those 5 questions have proven to be really powerful ways for, like you said, people from 55 countries have gone through this. And then you take them in the plural. What's confronting us? What are we bringing? What's been running us? What calls us? And then what will unleash us? Now you've got a great question for building a team or for building an organization. And so I've been training people to do this work, and there are now 24 people certified from 12 countries to do this, the 5 questions work.
What do you see after this process? What changes in people? What changes in organizations?
The feedback.
How do people take it farther?
Well, look at, you see all the marking you have in your book.
I did. I know what it did to me. I know
I feel grateful, actually, Magda is really the word, that so much of the feedback that we get is like that. People will tell me, John, I went through the LDI or the EDI like 15 years ago. I sometimes see people in airports, they run up to me, Yannick, John, and they say every day, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think of something in you, something I got there. So I don't know, we don't have any hard evidence that you can point to, but I can point to hundreds of individual anecdotal stories about what happened to people in their teams, in their families, in their relationships at home. Feedback from the first one of these in 1987, the first version of this program. So that's 35 years, and people will tell me it made as much difference in the way I was with my kids and my partner as it did for the way I was at work, because it's all about who's the person inside of the position or the title or the role.
I know that it's your program, your philosophy is also a part, a kind of cornerstone of the Academy, Leadership Academy for Poland, this premium program created here in Poland with the goal of building the superior leadership course, but also empower people who want to make a significant impact.
Actually, when Professor Cezary Wojcik spoke to me 9 years ago, I still see us having coffee, and he said, I'm creating a leadership program designed to affect leadership across all of Poland, how to raise all the boats. And I thought, I'm in. If I can help, I'm in. So he came and did our 4-day leadership program, and he said, okay, I want you on the faculty for this thing.
Beautiful.
It's an incredible program. It's nothing, I've not seen anything like it before. 7 days, very intensive work with a professor from Harvard, from Professor Wojcik and myself. And then there's 3 months of people in a small group putting into practice, you see, what they learned. And so you don't hope that people learn. You actually have a chance that people in their small groups can say, this is what's going on. This is the tiger I need to face. And so the small group helps people apply. So there's tremendous application. And it's been going now for 8 years. So that's 40 people in a group. So that's 300-400 people now across Poland. Genders, industries, locations, business units, NGOs, education, government, everywhere.
I'll tell you what it did to me. I've been using your guidance in the book, but also going through the reflection process. It's a very deep self-reflection, self-awareness process that you take people on. And we really come transform, change after that. It's kind of an awakening to the world. You come home to yourself, right? You come back home to yourself. Yeah. It comes with a risk.
Oh.
Because we look at the world, we look at the organization differently. Yeah. And what is the risk here? That we confront, sometimes the tiger changes.
Sometimes the tiger gets you and sometimes you get the tiger.
Sometimes, the initial tiger that we were confronted with, the challenges at workplace, maybe challenges or difficulties in our families.
Yeah.
When we learn more about ourselves, we come back home, we see world differently.
We see gaps everywhere.
We see gaps.
The delta between the way it is and the way it could be. And then how do you become an effective facilitator of change in each of those places? Yeah.
And I want you to ask, I want to ask you the question I am being asked by my students. I'm a faculty at the MBA business school in Krakow. Sometimes my students ask me, Magda, with all I know now, and I want to be the leader who builds trust, who is authentic, who communicates. openly, transparently. And at the same time, I'm aware when I'm high in the organization structure, I'm all aware of the organizational politics, sometimes the strategies regarding environment, geopolitics, I'm not aligned with. And there comes some kind of confrontation or even dilemmas on this high level. Is there a way to close the gap? Is there a way to be at the same time true to ourselves, be at home, and be an effective leader?
I think that's the only way, is to be yourself. A distinction that's very important, and it's in the Leadership Academy for Poland, which I learned from my Harvard professor, Hugh O'Doherty. And he got it from one of his colleagues, that basically there's a difference between authority and leadership. So let's say you're out there and there's some kind of a gap between the way things are and the way you think they should be. If it's a simple problem with a simple solution, all you need is someone with a sufficient rank to say, do it. I was in the U.S. Navy, right? Right full rudder, all ahead 2/3. We're not having a conversation. Then I could say, well, Mr. Scherer says we should do that. No. You put the rudder over and hope you're on the right track. That's having authority. If you have a title as a parent or a partner in a relationship or an organization or a team, that gives you authority in certain areas where things are simple. But what if it's not simple? And most of these things are not simple. We don't know exactly what the problem is. We just know things are not working like they should. We don't know what the problem is. We're not sure what the solution is. So what's needed then is not authority, but a completely different skill set. And they call it adaptive leadership. How do I facilitate learning, first thing, among the key stakeholders, and then galvanizing action? So it's learning, facilitating, and then galvanizing action. That's a whole different skill set. That's leadership. So when people come to me and say, I see gaps everywhere, great. Well, welcome to having really good awareness. That's a curse. It's a blessing and a curse. Yeah. Suddenly I see deltas, I see gaps everywhere. What do? Learning. Well, who else agrees with you that this needs to be done? Well, I don't know. We'll go find out. See, we'll learn. And then you get a small group of people together and you start facilitating among all the stakeholders. Who are the people that are against this? Get them into the circle. So these are the principles I've been teaching for 50 years. And this I got from Kurt Levine. How do we do high engagement performance improvement, system-wide high engagement? How do I engage the people in figuring out what needs to be done? Then somebody with rank can say, okay, go do that. That's leadership. So the secret when we find ourselves in these situations is not that we're supposed to know what to do. If we do, great, go do it. But if the problem persists, it means other people need to be engaged. And that's where all the skill that we teach comes in.
Do you understand it well that once you go through your 5 questions, once you come back to yourself, you have the power to lead teams
and responsibility,
even without having answers, or usually,
especially leadership is not having answers, but knowing what to do. See, that's different. What to do is not tell people what to do, but help us figure out what to do and then do it. See, that's the difference between authority and leadership.
I love it.
Isn't that great? I mean, that way you can't fail because you're still learning. As long as you're trying to learn what needs to be done, you can't fail. Yeah.
John, I'm listening to you with eyes open and, excitement. And I'm really impressed by your energy, your drive, your motivation. 50 years in the industry and you're still glowing, you're illuminating, you're excited. What really keeps you motivated, keeps you alive, keeps you energized in this season of your life?
I'm 84, right?
I didn't say that.
Well, I know, but I just put it out there on the table. People are trying to do the math, right? So yeah, 84. And people say, well, how do you, Mark Twain said, if you love what you do, you never work another day in your life. So people say, how can you do so much? I'm not even doing something here with you. I'm being myself. I showed up here. I'm going to be the best John Scherer that I can be with Magda in this interview. That's all. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do here, but I'm thinking about the people out there that are going to hear this. I'm in service to those people. I'm hoping that my intention walking in here is that we will have a conversation that will move, touch, invite some people out there to begin facing the tiger, to begin learning how to exercise leadership in a world that desperately needs what we're talking about right here. Mm-hmm. It's not just this part of the world. And now let me keep going for a second. I'll go on. Leadership in many governments right now is flowing back and forth over the centuries. It flows from centralized control, just like organizations. Do we centralize or do we decentralize? Do we create this or do that? And it's harder when it's an entire nation. And I think the whole world is trying to figure out where do we belong on this continuum? Where are we in this arc of swinging back and forth? And if you understand the principles of leadership, even top-down organizations, there has to be leadership. Otherwise, you get a bunch of slaves running around, and then you have a revolution.
Yeah.
So nobody wants a revolution. Nobody wants a revolution unless you're on the side of the revolution. And then I'm saying there's better ways to create change than a revolution. Talk to me. Happy to tell you about that. So right now, the whole world is trying to figure out how do we exercise leadership in this. What is it time for right now in this place and time? Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting times we live in, and as you said, there's a number of questions. But what we can, not sure if I can say we can have control over, but we can manage is ourselves.
The only three things I know that you have control over are what you say, what you do, and what you intend. Why are you saying and doing it? And that's the one that very few people explore. And that's been my work. Why? Like you're the carpenter, right? Why? What are you trying to build? Well, who's going to benefit other than you feeding your family? You know the story about people, why are you chipping the stone back in the Middle Ages? What are you doing? I'm chipping this stone. And the second person says, so what are you doing? He says, I'm feeding my family. And the third person says, I'm building a cathedral, right? So there's like, why do you get up in the morning and do what you do? And I want to encourage people to find that bigger why. Thank you, Simon Sinek, for that on his thing. It's like, what is the why? That's at the base. I was doing that before Simon Sinek did it, but he's made it so powerful. The why is the most important thing because that drives what you say and what you do. The more you can understand, first of all, what is my why? I mean, whether it's good or bad, don't try to make it right. Just say, what's the truth? Why do I get up every day and do this? And make your why as big as you possibly can. Then that will give you a wider base to stand and make the work less difficult.
I love it, and I adopted the GPS from your book. So greater purpose statement. It's an amazing mechanism to exemplify our why, to name it, to have it in front of our eyes, and to really keep it close to who we are, not make it like a beautiful marketing statement. Some organizations pretend to have like bold mission statements.
Put it on the wall and everything. And everybody walks by and goes, yeah, right, or something like that.
Exactly.
Can I tell you a story that I think illustrates that?
Please do.
Because you asked me earlier. People don't know this about me, but when I was young, I was a stutterer, unable to speak. And every stutterer never starts a sentence without worrying about, am I going to make it through this sentence? Okay, so all the way through school. Now, so the Navy, when I graduated from college, and made me an air controller. So I had to be on the radio all day. It was like, let's see what John does with this. And the first thing I asked, the hard sounds for me were p, d, k, like that. And I would get these tricks. I would go and then say the word, or and say the word. So when I showed up to the ship, I said, what is our call sign on the radio? And they said, hermit. And I went, oh, thank you. No problem. Nima problema dla mnie. No problem for me. And so, but then our ship got assigned to the USS Enterprise to be the rescue ship. And we followed her everywhere. Biggest warship on the earth. Her call sign was Climax. Oh my goodness, you couldn't have picked a harder word, Climax. So one night, in the middle of the night, I get a call from the captain of the USS Enterprise. He said, Hermit, this is Climax himself. We just lost a Phantom jet. Go rescue our guys. And he appointed me to be the search and rescue coordinator. My Lord. Wow. So now suddenly I have 10, 12 airplanes, jets, helicopters, and I'm talking to them all and after this went on for 8 hours, 10 hours. And after about an hour or so, I realized, Magda, for the first time that I could remember, not only was I not stuttering, but I hadn't even thought about it.
Wow.
Why? Because there were two guys in the water. I feel emotional when I think it was two guys in the middle of the night. Two guys are in the water out there, John Scherer. You better get over yourself, buddy. This is not, you got to get beyond who this story is you have about yourself. And I never stuttered again after that. So there's something about that. There were two people in the water that were more important in that moment than all this history I had, the story I had about myself, my self-concept, that you are bigger than you're bigger than you think you are. John Scherer, you want to be that guy. I remember after it was over, the pilot was being rescued in the water by the helicopter. We were there, and I saw the helicopter and the swimmers in the water. The captain said he wants to know who the air controller was, so I give a wave like this in the water. I don't even know if he's seen me. This guy's in the water. Lieutenant commander gets about 2 feet out of the water, and he salutes me. I mean, and I salute him back, and I remember walking over to the port side and just crying. It was a victory, Magda. I want to be that John Scherer. I don't want to be that other guy that can't start a sentence. And I never stuttered since. And that was the moment, I think, that really I experienced transformation in that moment.
Beautiful.
So I want to do anything I can to help people have their own version of that experience. And it starts with what's more important right now than, like, why are you here talking to me? See, and I think we talked about it. It's you people. We're both here for you. You're the two guys in the water for us, for both of us. Yeah, that's why I get up in the morning.
Yeah, we just said that we are the tools.
Exactly.
Hopefully, we hope that this message will resonate with some of the audience here. Also, you mentioned something that, that the goal is bigger than myself.
Yeah.
And allow me to make this statement because, the culture we live in, the current times, they put so much pressure on me. Me, be perfect.
Look a certain way, to act a certain way.
Act a certain way, be perfect, be fit, be healthy, just me. And this me concept is very heavy. It's at one side it's self-centering, it's self-serving.
Yeah.
But it's also very heavy for people to live to some expectations from the outer external worlds, and you're changing that perspective. That there is something bigger than us, that we can serve the bigger cause, which honestly, I don't know if that's a very popular
I have a radical thought about that. I think when we go deep enough inside, when we really come home to the fullness of who we are, that drives us out again. You can't stay in there. I remember my grandmother telling me, Johnny, people that are all wrapped up in themselves make a very small package. And so there's something about coming home to myself, and many people do. Many people, but they don't take that last step, which is why? Why? Why come home to myself? And like I said, I work with executives. They have the trophy house, the trophy spouse. They got the office. They got everything. And I say, well, then why are we talking? Why? You got everything, right? Yeah. Well, then why are you talking to me? Well, I don't think I have everything. Okay, now we got something here. What's missing? And it's that little teeny space. I got everything anybody could ever want, but what? And that's that last step of coming home to yourself. And that step is not about a bigger house, a bigger spouse, or whatever. That's something else. And that's where what I call the human spirit comes in. And that's where the action is. And that takes us back out again. And people that are running an NGO who are sacrificing themselves for the world.
Yeah.
Mother Teresa, story about Mother Teresa. Apparently, this interviewer was meeting with her, and one of the sisters came in and said, Mother Teresa, come to the gate. We have a problem. So she gets up and they walk to the gate. It was at night, and people were trying to get into the center for help. And she helps them lock the door. And they're walking back across, and the magazine writer says, Mother Teresa, I can't understand. I can't believe you just shut the door. I thought they were coming in for help. And she said, if my sisters and I don't retire every night to pray and rest and take care of ourselves, this place will close in 3 days. So those of you that are serving the world, you better pay attention to put on your own oxygen mask before you take care of other people. You have to be feeding yourself as well. So there's a balance, I think. There's a natural rhythm that occurs between these.
This is a very great topic. I think since the COVID-19 pandemic, we've been observing the issue of mental health, physical health. People are struggling with their health. We're struggling with, relationships, family relationships. What we should actually take care of, also to create space for us to take care of ourselves. Because, if everything's falling in your life, you usually don't do, the first thing you do is to meditate and to come back to yourself. You try to rescue everyone around. So what should we start with?
I'm going to recommend a dear friend and colleague named Barry Johnson came up with this concept called polarity thinking many, many years ago. It's embedded in all the work that I've ever done since I met Barry. And his book is called And. It's not or. Do I take care of myself or do this? No, it's how can I take care of myself and take care of the world? I'm here to take care of the world. How can I take care of the world and take care of myself? You change the or to an and. It's brilliant. Barry Johnson. Highly recommend anybody watching this go get his book called And by Barry Johnson. And this is exactly what's needed. Leadership in life, leading a life.
Yeah.
Anytime you come down on one pole of a polarity and forget about the other, that other one is going to become more and more and more important. And so you're going to be forced to pay attention to it. And that's what countries are doing. We're going to take care of ourselves. Oh, we need to take care of the world. Take care of the world? I guess we need to take care of ourselves. And what Barry points to is this infinite loop. But what is it time for now? What is it time for now? Leadership is about figuring out what is it time for now. Yeah. Sometimes it's putting on my little oxygen mask, and sometimes it's sacrificing myself. In the military, mission comes first. Mission first. I learned that. But if you can't breathe, if you can't function, if you can't do your job, what are you there for? So this rhythm is very important. This balance of the polarities.
Yeah. I love this conversation. It could last for a few more hours. Unfortunately,
I'm ready.
We would have to arrange another call, another meeting when you're back to Poland. Hopefully you will for other projects.
Coming back, Seattle, Warsaw.
Where's your home? Where's your true home?
Well, John? That's it. I mean, that's a great question now for me. That is a real inquiry I'm in right now. What is it time for now? When is it time for me to be in Poland? When is it time for me to be in Seattle? And ultimately, where is home? It's a great question I'm wrestling with.
John, I need to ask this question. People at age of 84 very often think about, how to stay in comfort and, rest and
glide, get on the glide path. Yeah.
And I feel that you're working on something else, that you are not resting, you're not,
Yes, yet, not yet. Not yet.
So what is your next big thing? What is driving you?
Okay.
What is your big mission, big dream?
I'm on a very steep learning curve. Seriously, just started about a month ago. I've decided that it's time for me, my internal circle has been advising me to go online now as an online content provider or guru, I don't know, whatever the thing is, but to have a podcast or something. And they're saying, John, many people want to just hang around you and talk with you and be with you. And so I'm trying to figure out how to do that online. So hopefully
Stay tuned, because the next episode will be run by John Scherer. I'm keep my fingers crossed for you because the world needs you.
Oh, thank you. This is so great. I love doing this. I love being here with you.
It's very natural.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, but this is not our first meeting, that's for sure. I came a long way to meet you again. And I know that I found my home, so I'm meeting you there from this place. John, you're relating a lot to Army, how Army affected you, how Army...
Well, the Navy, but we call it military. Navy. That's okay.
The military.
In America, you don't want to make that.
I'm sorry. Yeah. You relate to Navy.
Yeah.
How Navy impacted you as a person. And it comes to my mind, the question, who is the person who influenced you the most? Who had importance, impact on who you are today? You are such a wonderful, driven person. Who are the people in your life who...
I had an answer immediately when you asked the question. My grandfather. I was born. My pop was I come from 4 generations of Lutheran ministers. I'm John Jacob Scherer the fourth, right? My father decided to be a newspaperman / alcoholic. So that broke the chain, right? Mm-hmm. So the first 5 years of my life, I grew up in my grandfather's home, literally attached to the church. So I grew up right there by the church. And he was a hero for me. In fact, I called him Daddy, and I called my father Pop, because he was the father figure. And I just followed him around like a little guy. And I think in many ways, I think he would be proud of me, because he was a pastor in service to the world. He wasn't just trying to make his congregation big and fat, but how can we be of service? He started a university. He created a juvenile and domestic relations court. He was a justice. They gave him permission to sit and on these cases. He started a mental health association because of his son's alcoholism. So he was a figure. This is what I want to do. I want to make that kind of difference in people's lives in the world. I mean, when he got sick with his cancer, it was front page news in Richmond, Virginia, and I was that way. So I think my grandfather stands as a symbol for me of what it's not working on the human spirit is not just for the people to themselves, but to be about something else, something bigger than they are in the world. So that's where I got all that. I think I got that in my first 5 years.
You did, and your grandpa would be super proud of you. I'm sure of that. Yeah. What would you like your kids to take from you? Because you really raised the bar high, John.
Yeah, I'm not measuring up the way I would like to. I think the kids would say, my kids would, they would know that I love them. They would know that. And because I've thought a lot about this. And of course, when I'm leading exercises for other people, like when I tell my facilitators, if you're in the room, you're in the program. Yeah. So, and I've taken people through this exercise about at the end of life, what do you wish people would say? So I'm doing that same exercise. So I've had a lot of experience looking at that. And I grade myself pretty hard on that. There are times I wish I hadn't been on an airplane going somewhere else, and I had been there. Like I didn't want to miss birthdays and special days like that. And I think my daughter would say, Dad, but I remember you taking me to ballet class, and I think the kids, I did my best to be in that and space. What is it time for now? But looking back on it, I think I would give myself a less than perfect grade on that part of it. But my middle son is a hip hop rapper. He's a rapper with eight CDs out. And one of his raps is about not having a father the way he wished he had a father. And this song that he did, this rap, would create a real healing between us. He was like 19, 20 years old. And he ends up saying, I realize that I have two fathers that love me, a father that's with me and a father that's above me. And at one point he said, lost dreams of fishing turned to higher intuition. In other words, he was hoping that I was going to take him fishing, and what turned out to be the gift that I gave him was not fishing trips, but intuition trips. So I think the kids would ultimately, I mean, if I died tomorrow, I think they would miss me, and I think they would be able to tell you, probably do a better job than I could at telling you what I did that was positive for them. So I'm a pretty hard grader.
That's a beautiful story. That's a beautiful testament to your life, what your kids tell about you as well. Mm-hmm.
This thing of being everywhere and doing good in many places in the world, I think that would be a thing that probably a lot of people would say, I wish I had more of him, more of John. And I'm giving as much as, like right now, I'm 110% here with you.
You are.
But I'm not somewhere else that maybe I could be. And I want to apologize to all the people that maybe wish I was there instead of here. I'm sorry, but I'm here with Magda right now. And that's how I've lived my life. So there's an upside and a downside to that.
And there's more. So we are not ending here.
Okay.
Let me just really from the bottom of my heart, thank you for finding time, for being here, sharing your wisdom, your philosophy, your beautiful books. This one is out of print, unfortunately. You can probably find it in some second
Be very expensive.
yeah, online shopping. But there's another book.
Facing the Tiger. Yeah, well, we can give some information about that.
Yeah, Facing the Tiger. We can give you some links
Coming soon.
where to find it and how to get it. And hopefully we'll see you soon, John.
Thanks, Magda.
Thank you so much. It was a lovely
My
conversation.
pleasure.